Hi, friend, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Steph, and I'm so happy you're here. In today's episode, we are going to start to explore the same question that philosophers and theorists have been discussing for centuries. Who am I? I'm going to challenge you to start thinking about who you are in a different way than you may be used to, and begin to understand how our self-concept shapes our lives, so that together we can rise up from the depths. In last week's video, we explored the importance of becoming aware of the things that are holding us back from achieving our desired results in whatever aspect of life that might be, and beginning to understand what's really going on under the surface. I talked about the triangle of success, the what, the how, and the who of either running a business or making changes that you hope to see in whatever aspect of life that might be. I talked about the bicycle metaphor, that we have two pedals that we need to work in tandem in order to ride the bike smoothly: the pedal of action and the pedal of alignment, or who you really are. In order to get yourself in alignment, you need to know who you are. How we typically identify ourselves is with labels such as mom, wife, sibling, artist, musician, friend, introvert, extrovert, organized, messy, energetic, laid back, etc. The list goes on. But who are you really? So we're going to strip this back and get rid of all these labels, the ways that we have learned to identify ourselves, and put ourselves into different categories that help us know where we end and the other person begins, how we're different than others, and how we're maybe similar. When we get down to the root level and back into the basics, we will discover that we are a three-part being. We are a body, a mind, and a soul. You can start to think of yourself like dihydrogen monoxide or water. Water has three states of being: solid, liquid, and gas. When it's in its solid state, it's in the form of ice. Liquid is water, and in the gas form is steam. And we know that water can be in these three different states, and it's still the same molecular structure, H2O. The only difference is temperature and density. If we start to think of ourselves like water, we are our solid form of our body. We are the liquid state, our thoughts, emotions, and feelings, which are constantly in flux and changing. And then we are the gas state, or our spirit, our energy, that intangible nature, that quality that we can't put into a box. So we are all three states, just as water is three different states of being, but we are all three states at one time. We are always in a state of form and a state of no form. So if we can start to expand our consciousness and start to see ourselves in the same way that we see water, that it's just these different states flowing, and we can access all three of these states, we will shift the way we see ourselves, and it's going to start to have an impact on the way that we operate within our lives. So it's pretty easy to observe that we are the physical solid state. We have our bodies, and obviously we are a solid state. And we can tell the liquid state that's always in flux and flowing, which is our mental body, our thoughts, our emotions. And as Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. To make the case for the soul, if you have a hard time with the concept of soul or God, I want to encourage you that we don't have to have all the answers. We just have to start asking the right questions. So when we compare ourselves to water and the different states, and we have evidence of the two states, body and mind, I want to explore that we do have evidence for the state of our soul. Some of the evidence for the energy body can be seen. For example, if you sprinkle iron flakes around a magnet, they actually will disperse in a way that we can visualize and see the way that the energy field is moving around the magnet without actually being able to experience that field with our five senses. So we see evidence. Just like we can't actually see wind, we can only see its effect on the surrounding environment. So obviously, we can see the trees blowing, we can see things getting knocked down, but we can't see the actual wind. We can see if there's dust particles in the wind, but we can't see the wind. The same thing applies with our energy, and we can't really see it unless something is affected by it. Now, some people do have the ability to see energy and seeing auras. Fun little side note, I actually got an aura photo done last week, and it's really cool. I didn't know this was a thing, but I actually have a rainbow aura. So these are ways that we can start to see and experience the energy that is working in and around us. And if we think of ourselves like that magnet that has that polarity, which we all do, the earth has polarity, everything in the three-dimensional space has a polarity, we can can imagine our energy field being very similar to that of the iron flakes around the magnet. Another example of seeing the effect of energy is if you've ever walked into a room right after an argument just took place and everyone's silent, but you can just feel the tension in the space. You don't even need to have heard anything. Nobody needs to be doing or saying anything, and you can just feel and sense this dense energy. And we use the phrase, you could cut it with a knife. The opposite of that is like if you walk into a spa and it's just this peaceful, light feeling environment. You feel so comfortable and relaxed and at ease. And it's this energy that you're feeling in the space. So when it comes to that energy and the density, like when you can cut energy with a knife, similarly to how the denser clouds become, that's when they begin to turn into rain. And so the density of their form is compacting and it's turning into that liquid state. And if someone is feeling really depressed, they feel really heavy and their body is in a state of greater density. If you've ever felt this way, you know that your body has a harder time moving. You feel sluggish, you feel heavy. And again, when you are feeling incredibly joyful and elated, you feel light and you just feel like you could take on any challenge and do amazing. When you're in this light, energetic state and your body just feels much more free. So we can see how these densities play out in different ways and the effect that they're having in our lives. The perfect way to understand the different density levels is through the Hawkins scale. So if your energy is at a really high vibration, vibrating at like 1,000, then you are in an enlightened state. And then it goes down from there, divine peace, love, and joy, down to serenity, reverence, love, reason, acceptance, willingness to neutrality. As we go lower into courage, pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame is when we get into that more and more dense state and it just feels heavier and our form becomes more solid and it's harder to do things. It's harder to move and flow easily. So leave me a comment below if this is resonating. I really hope it's making sense for you and some new dots are connecting that maybe you hadn't thought of before. So now that we understand that, okay, we are a three-part being and we can see the effects of different energies, how our bodies react and how our mental state reacts and how it all kind of works in tandem. In order to get ourselves into alignment and align all these three states of being, we can think of ourselves like an instrument that needs tuned. You may not know this about me, but I actually played viola from 5th grade through freshman year of college, where I was a music performance major. So I got out my viola for you guys today to talk about this concept. Ta-da! Whenever we are about to start playing an instrument, the first step is tuning it. Now, if you're familiar with musical instruments, you may already know how to get an instrument in tune, but for the sake of illustration, I'm going to go through the process with you today. We start with the A string or the A note. And how do we find the note A to tune this instrument to? Well, we have to go to the source of A. Now, some people do have perfect pitch where they can hear the note A and they know what that is. But without that ability, we have to either go to a piano that's hopefully tuned correctly, or we can use one of these amazing apps that will give us the note. So we play this and then we start to tune our instrument. Now we have our A string in tune. Now we can consider the note that we want to start our tuning to for our three-part being the source of all that is. So God, the creator, the universe, whatever name and title you want to give to the one creator of all things, your higher power of choice. We want to start by tuning to that frequency. If we can feel and sense that frequency as our indicator of whether or not we're in tune, then we can start to tune the rest of our instrument. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this is that our instruments don't stay in tune. It pops out of tune so easily. We can bump it, it'll pop out of tune. If it's in cold weather, it'll go out of tune. If it's just been a little while, it's going to go out of tune. So you have to tune it up every time you start to play your instrument. Do we yell at our instrument when it goes out of tune and say, why can't you just stay in tune, you stupid, dumb instrument? No, maybe we do when we get frustrated, but ideally we are not yelling at our viola or violin or clarinet or flute or cello when it goes out of tune. All we're doing is getting it back in tune. We're just turning those dials. We recognize that it's been out of tune based on the sound that it's playing. And then we can see, okay, we just need to get it back in tune. And then the notes that we play are going to start to sound good again. In order to play a song beautifully, a musician has to practice this over and over and over until the piece becomes committed to muscle memory and they can play without even thinking. When we tune an instrument, we know whether it's in tune or not by the sound that we hear, and we have to listen closely. The same thing is true when it comes to getting ourselves in tune. We need to get quiet and listen closely to our soul resonance in order to hear the beautiful music that can be created. And eventually you'll get to the place where you can allow your instrument to be played by the highest version of yourself. I hope you enjoyed that fun little analogy using my viola, which I haven't played in years. But one of the best parts of playing in the orchestra is that you are not just listening to yourself play. You are surrounded by all these incredible musicians who are playing along with you to create this beautiful symphony. If we start to view ourselves and the rest of the world as simply instruments playing together in a symphony rather than trying to argue and fight for the spotlight, then just imagine the harmony we could all be creating, especially if we were all playing our instruments in tune. So what can you do as far as being involved in this symphony? Well, you can't go around tuning everyone else's instrument. You are responsible for your instrument. All you have to worry about is getting your instrument in tune and then playing it as beautifully as you possibly can. Every single day that we wake up, we first need to start by getting our instrument in tune. A few ways that we can tune our instrument is through meditation, through healthy eating and exercise, and paying attention to our thoughts and our liquid state. The way that I personally prefer to get my instrument in tune each morning is to get up and start with my solid state, my body, and get up and go to the gym and work out. And then I come home and do a meditation and focus on my mental state. And then once I get my mental state clear, I'm able to tap into the higher state. And it's when all these things are in alignment when I feel like I'm the most authentic version of myself. When these things start to get out of alignment and my mind is going all over the place and I haven't been exercising and I'm, maybe not eating the healthiest foods, I feel out of tune. I get in those denser frequencies and I kind of start to forget who I really am. I start to identify more with the solid state as the only state of my being. So don't worry if you're feeling like, okay, well, what does this mean? What am I supposed to do now? For now, all you need to do is start asking that question to yourself. Who am I? Who am I really? Labels are like lids. So if we start to take off the labels, we'll start to remove some of the lids that we've put on ourselves or that other people have put on us. And we'll be able to feel much more free and expansive, and our being will just start to radiate out into the world. Now, how beautiful is that? You have an infinite aspect of yourself that isn't easily seen, but it is felt. So sit with these questions for a little while. You don't have to know all the answers right away. Just start asking the right questions. Eventually, the answers will come to you. So, my beautiful friend, I hope this has helped you in starting to understand who you really are and beginning to see yourself a little bit differently so you can start to tune your instrument. And then when you do take action, it's going to be coming from a place of total alignment with the universe on your side. Coming up, we're going to start to explore your subconscious mind and how your subconscious is impacting your habits and life experience, and to start to explore the tools and strategies you'll need in order to get your subconscious mind to start working for your highest potential. I hope you enjoyed this episode of From the Depths. If you got any value out of this, do me a favor, like this video and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you know someone else who would benefit from this week's episode, go ahead and share it with them so together we can change as many lives as possible. New episodes drop every week on Thursday, so we'll be hanging out together again soon. Until then, this is Steph signing off. See you next time.